This conference will now be recorded.
Now I'm going to try to share my screen. So given my luck with technology this morning, I'm not anticipating this is going to go smoothly either, but let's give it a roll anyways. And I'm going to hope that everyone can see my screen at the moment. And move folks out of the way here. HKY4Vets, you may or may not have heard of this prior to today. HKY4Vets, we've been around since 2016. This started really as a result of Lindsay and her organization, and then Catawba County Economic Development, my organization here in Catawba County, really just the workforce thing that so many companies, many of you have every day and face, most pronounced during the last 2 years, 2 to 3 years of the pandemic. We all know this has been going on for a long time, really for years and years. And so we've heard those cries, and I know communities around the Hickory Metro and beyond are doing some great work to help companies in every situation they possibly can. And this was one area we honestly knew nothing about. We have the benefit of being in North Carolina with a lot of placed military installations that you know of, Fort Bragg and Camp Lejeune, and just tens of thousands of people that are and their families that are stationed here for some period of time, often grow to love the community of North Carolina broadly. And then really when they have that chance of they're getting transitioning out of military service, there is this window where it's like any major life transition. It's a really it's a frustrating period. You come out and you hear, especially at least now, demand for talent, and we're looking for people that can contribute and make impact and jump in and have technical skills. And yet it's still a very difficult period for transitioning military families. And we found that early on, we started this as a kind of employer-driven initiative, and then we saw really there's a huge need on the part of those who have served us. And so we're really killing two birds with one stone, if you will, fulfilling that hopefully supply demand side of an employer market, but also having really hopefully making a good impact for the people that have so benefited us in our country. And so we've done this for years, and we've evolved the program greatly. And what you see on the screen in front of you is what we focus our efforts on now, and really kind of for the last year as well. I won't go into all these because really this is about the virtual hiring event side, but we have an ongoing initiative to do kind of an internship program called HKY4Vets Talent Fellows. There's some great established Department of Defense programs and some other things out there. So through, say, the U.S. Chamber's Hiring Our Heroes initiative, to place veterans or transitioning military spouses at employers during up to their last 6 months of active duty service. So it's almost, imagine, as you will, an internship program where you're not footing the bill. They're still being paid as active duty, but you get the benefit of someone that's incredibly talented, and hopefully you're benefiting them with some great skills as they transition to the private sector or public sector roles. We do one-on-one high touch level, so we get a lot of just emails and calls directly to our office. We've kind of become the lead communicator for this program, myself really just sitting here. And so I work a lot one-on-one with folks, knowing what our local companies are looking for, and then understanding the needs of this particular service member or military family, looking at the broader community, where they want to live, down to school systems, down to the basic things anyone's going to look for when they're relocating. But also, obviously, the employment side's huge. And so we've got great relationships with the companies in Catawba that we've built over really 10, 15 years of my being here and Lindsay's being here, to kind of really be a great conduit between those two. We're working on a regional initiative to really better connect the folks that are already here and hopefully serve as a soft landing spot for folks that may come here, we hope come here. And that's that professional connections, kind of professional networking group. And then lastly, the virtual hiring events. We're gonna have 3 that are set up for this year. We may do more depending on demand, but at this point, we're looking at 1 in October, 1 in March, and then 1 in May. And so I'm going to get into great detail about those here in a moment. Real quick, just to make a distinction, so we've done this since 2016. We do this really with private support and some public support. This kind of operates, it's not technically a standalone 501c3 nonprofit at this point. It may be in the future, but at this point, it's a separate organization within really the chamber and the EDC here in Catawba County. And these companies have signed on board for this upcoming year. So we work with them beyond just the virtual hiring events. We work with them on a pretty frequent basis for any needs. And we're constantly promoting their opportunities, trying to connect them with folks, and just looking for new ways to bring military spouse talent make them aware of their opportunities. So these folks are with us day in and day out. But what we're really talking about today are these virtual hiring events, which are kind of one-off instances where people from around the region, really. So to this point, we have had, somewhat detrimentally to ourselves, but as I said, there's only two of us that really kind of mind this shop. We have kept it to where it's just Catawba County based at this point. You saw those companies there, they have a foothold or footprint in Catawba County. And so we work with them on a daily basis. But when we've done these virtual hiring events, we did, I think 5 in the last year, to various levels of success, admittedly. We have found that the broader, more diverse opportunities we can have at one event. So great example is, am I going to go to something, say, if I'm looking for a job, am I more likely to go to a job fair with 12 companies or 40 companies? Am I more likely to go to a job fair that has a wide diversity of opportunities, healthcare, local government, law enforcement, manufacturing, management, sales, all those things, or just a couple opportunities? So we found that selfishly, it could benefit us by also benefiting the whole region. So that's why we're here today, is we're opening up our virtual hiring events to the broader region, because we think we all could benefit and honestly make a better and bigger impact for these folks we're trying to work with every day. And so we use a platform, you may have used it in your dealings before, it's called from Brazen. We did a really deep dive into all these different platforms. It's the height of the pandemic, everybody's going Zoom, GoToMeeting. And so we really dove into someone that offered the best assortment of features and cool things, but also it's really easy to do, because you want something that functions well for both you as an employer and also as a participant, because it's got to be seamless. It's got to be easy to get in, get out the door, participate, and hopefully get to that next stage of an opportunity. So some of the quick features, you see a couple of the pictures on there. The bottom middle one is kind of the lobby. So everyone is able to, participating companies are able to basically build a virtual booth. It's kind of branded specific to you with your own imagery or video content, text comment about your company and your opportunities. And it really functions off of initial text to chat. And so the top left picture shows an initial where you start as, I'm texting with this person, but I either have a particular interest or I'm particularly annoyed by texting initially with an applicant. And so I want to go to video. So it's got a very seamless integration with kind of a Zoom platform right into it. And so you can have, that person-to-person live video exchange. And really, it's just to move this ball down the road. I would love for people to say they offered someone a job on the spot and they were just so enamored with that individual that they did. But realistically, we want to kind of catalyze the next step. We want this to get the good introductory level information out of the way to the point where you're going into the next step and hopefully following up in very, very quick succession with each other to establish an in-person interview or something more substantial. It's obviously mobile friendly. We've had people from all over the world participate in these. We've had people stationed in Kuwait, Korea, you name it, people that have done these, and it's really just, it's meant to be friendly to the participant. If you can only jump on for 15 minutes and talk with that one company, that's great. If you want to be there the whole 3 hours, we encourage that as well, and talk to every single company. But you can do it from your phone, tablet, desktop, you name it. As an employer, you have the ability to actually kind of filter who you talk to if you really want to. Some people just want to be very open at this point. And then other times is say if you have a specific position that requires very technical or specific either experience or degree or background, you can actually ask those questions up front. And it's going to put, if you have 5 people waiting in line and someone fills out those questions, the person that seems to be the best applicant can actually jump to the front, so they're not waiting behind those other 4. That's what Smart Queue is called. As said, it's accessible anywhere. And then the last part, you have 2 options. You have, just like any job fair in some ways, you have walk-up traffic. So folks will go click on a booth and say, you know, I see this opportunity. I want to start chatting with Stephanie at this company. And so they have you get some of that traffic, but then we also highly encourage folks to pre-schedule meetings prior. And we, as for the companies that participate, really for about a good 5 to 6 week window, we're doing weekly communications with the participating companies as well as the participants separately. But we're getting their resumes, we're getting a little bit more background on their skill sets, interest, pay levels even. And so we've got a pretty good information level when they're coming in the door. And we highly encourage the companies to reach out to applicants prior. You can actually schedule them through this system, or heck, just send them an email. If you see someone that's really of interest, you say, I'd love for you to stop by our booth, you know, come talk to Jane that day. We have a great opportunity. I think it's perfect for you, and just would love to hear more about your background and potential interest in our company. Just that little bit of nudge is huge. Companies see this every day. We all get ghosted. And one way to reduce that ghosting is to actually show interest and look up these people and try to get show some interest up front that we want you to be there and come to our booth to see our opportunities, because we think you might be a really good fit. With that, real quick, I'm just going to pause and see if anybody has any questions. I don't want to get too far down the road. If there are none, I will keep going, definitely. That tells me to keep going. So I think it's important to kind of upfront with folks that have not participated. At this point in Catawba, Canada, we probably had 40 plus different companies that have participated in these at some point or another. Sometimes we've had some that have done every single event we've ever done, and then some that just do 1 or 2. You know, they may not have hire needs going on throughout the year, and so they jump in and jump out where necessary. And this kind of model will actually allow for that, especially within the region. If you have a big hiring surge and you need another pipeline to potentially run down, this could be a good opportunity for that. But we like to be upfront with kind of the expectation of who takes care of what. And so on the left side is what our organization will do. Between Lindsay and myself, we do all the initial kind of onboarding with you as a company. We're doing that with candidates as well. We're doing all the marketing. We're doing the communication with you and trying to keep you up to date and make sure you're aware of important things, either milestones that we need to reach, or just having those resumes so you have time to expose yourself to the candidates prior to. And then we're obviously doing troubleshooting, which we did a terrible job this morning with the go-to meeting, but we do a pretty darn good job of it the day of, and we're in constant communication with folks, so you know you can reach out to us if there's an issue. And then on the right side, just kind of giving expectations. This is kind of, if you had to say, it's like anything in life, the more you put into it, I admittedly think you're going to get more out of it. But if you're looking at a bare minimum level as a company participating, here's kind of the time windows I think it looks like. So for that initial booth, building it out, we start it, but we obviously want you to finish it and put your finer touches to it. That could be anywhere from, you know, as little as 45 minutes if you're really pretty quick and savvy with technology and have some marketing already to pull from, to up to 2 or 3 hours if you really want to put bells and whistles to it. The other part is, if we've asked, as I said before, we love companies when they do prior outreach to participants. That helps you, it helps the overall effort. And I've kind of thrown in there, that's, you know, a 1 to 4 hour window of reviewing resumes to kind of doing that initial outreach. And then the last part is the day of the event. That is 3 hours. We're hoping for a fairly good sized event. And so 3 hours plus some follow-up, hopefully with your best candidates in the following week. So I kind of put that in a 4 to 6 hour window. So all told, you're looking at really less than 10 hours at the bare minimum over a stretch of really probably about a month and a half. So we do, as you see at the bottom, we do 80% of the work for you between myself and Lindsay. But this is important, but the work you do is 80% more important. And I'll say that because the booth and your opportunities, having those populated as early as possible is probably the #1 criteria for the overall success of the event. Because at some point, we will turn on the lobby that anyone that's registering can see, go ahead and see your companies. And so if we've got maybe 2 booths that are completed and there's 5 in kind of a scattered array of not being finished, and maybe you don't have the opportunities in there, you're going to have less people show up. You're going to have less people register. It's going to make a bad impression of your company when realistically you want the best impression from the get-go. And so that is the #1 thing, key to our success, is your engagement early on. And again, it does not take a lot amount of time, but being up front with it and at least out of the gate, running at a pretty good speed with this is going to be so critical. So again, it's extremely important to have you jump on quickly, and then you can kind of rest. Then we do a lot of our work on the backside for you. Almost done, getting close. Important stuff. So hopefully these aren't just minuscule, and y'all can see these, or I will send these out after the fact. But costs. So we have, you saw those 16 partners we showed earlier. Those folks pay substantially more throughout the whole year. They support this effort. They make it possible, bluntly. And so their dollars help make this possible and for us to do events like this. So we do have a cost factor to this. It's actually quite expensive for us to do these over the course of a year. And we have, at least for this initial event, I've costed at $200 for Catawba-based companies. They get a home court advantage, if you will, and then $250 for elsewhere in the region. And that gets you 1 booth and 1 rep. A rep is the person that actually will conduct the chats that day. I will just say from background, they've changed the model of the Brazen platform. We used to have companies that would show up with 4 and 5 reps that day. I think you can get by with 1. If you should want more, you can do we're charging a little bit more because it does cost us more to have that because we have a limited number. But 1 typically is pretty sufficient for the time. It's not a flood of people coming, hundreds of people coming in at once to this point. I would love for that to happen, and I will notify you if it does. But for the most part, 1 rep is sufficient. Sometimes people do want 2, just so maybe they have a specialist there for a particular position that they want to participate on the day. Important dates. So today is August 18th. Got a little less than a month. We love for people to jump on board now, but you do have up and through September 14th for the deadline for companies to jump on board. You see the 10/4 deadline. I've mentioned how important the booth is. I would love for it to be much earlier than that, but at least by that a week out, we're asking companies to have their booth 100% completed. We will be doing marketing really for over the course of a month, but that last week we will ramp up our marketing significantly, and we will actually probably see about 85% of our registrants in that last week. It's just like anything. There's a lot of procrastinators in life, and they will tend to register very late in the process. Then you see there's a virtual test event. If you're new to this, we will run a kind of a mock day event and just get you, through kind of the basics of it, make sure it works well. And so that's a good way to get some of the things out of the way that people do run into on the actual day of the event, which is October 13th. So next steps. There are a couple ways that you can go forward from here. There is an intake form that we have for companies to kind of funnel into. I will provide that out. I will actually try to send out a link in the chat here in a moment. when we potentially answer some questions. But we're doing that just to get your initial contact information, who is the main point of contact, and just kind of go through some of this again, really stating, are you aware that there are important dates to this? Can we count on you to follow-up survey? We always want to get better. We also want to track that we actually have an impact with these. So like, for instance, we just this morning got an email from MDI. Alex Lee is one of our long-term partners, and they just notified us they had hired a Navy vet for one of their positions from the last event in June. So it does take a while, often in the hiring process. So if you keep us in mind, kind of send us those quick notes and say, we hired this person because we were part of this, we very much appreciate that. You can contact me. I've got my email there, Nathan@HKY4Vets.com, if you want more information or have very specific questions. And then also, we've really funneled this out through your local economic development organizations in the area or your chambers. So hopefully they've got some level of awareness at this point. And so good point to also start is with them, and then they can kind of come back our way if they have specific needs. But we're working on this together and really want to be helpful to get you all hopefully as part of this, because we do think it really can be beneficial for the whole region and your company. With that, I'm going to stop sharing, trying to be mindful of people's time today, but I'm happy to answer questions now if folks may have them. Our chatty group. I'm going to go ahead and put, should you be interested, the intake form is in the chat right now, since I didn't have that out prior. But if that's just like a 5 or 6 question intake form, and then I'll follow up with you and actually, usually within a 24 to 48 hour window, tend to go ahead and build out the booth initially, and then send it to you and send you kind of some onboarding information to get you going. I'll give it one more ask for if there's any more questions.
Hey Nathan, it's Deborah Murray. Good morning.
Deborah?
You hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I just want to say thank you. We have a bunch of questions. We'll ask you those later. Didn't want you to think we're not interested. We appreciate the opportunity to pass the information along.
Wonderful. Happy to answer that. Well, not seeing a lot of those. I'm just going to end it by saying we very much appreciate everyone's interest today. If it's something where you might have remembered from the beginning, we will have 3 of these. They're going to be open to the general public. So we changed that with our last event. Folks within the region, if they will hear about it too, but we do an extra special focus towards the military spouse population. So we have relationships with the bases. We'll be doing direct marketing down in Goldsboro, in Jacksonville, you know, all really kind of a couple installations across the Southeast. So, and actually the one in March is a little bit unique as well. We also throw in, it's really kind of geared towards the college market as well. So we do recent college alumni and then folks that may be graduating in that class of 2023. Hard to believe we're getting closer to that, but class of 2023. And we include internships in that as well. So around that March timeframe, as folks are starting looking out to, I'm either going to be graduating or coming around to a one and summer internship. So do remember that in the future if you have those opportunities come around in the summer for, say, a college student or a recent alumni. And with that, we will send this recording out later. Again, appreciate everyone's time and interest. And at any point we can be of assistance, again, you can reach out to me at Nathan@HKY4Vets.com. Go to our website, it's got our contact information on there, but happy to be a resource and partner in this and hopefully help your companies and help these individuals and families that have given so much to us. So Thank you again and have a great rest of your day.